What is up, everybody? My name is Gus Bus, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Gus Bus.
What is up, guys? Back again on CS2 today. We have another inventory video. So today we're going to be building out a blue inventory, blue loadout, whatever you want to call it. Probably my most highly requested video so far. Had several people comment on past videos asking me to build out a blue inventory. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to build out a blue inventory. I wanted to start off this video by saying that I'm going to miss some skins. You know, there's so many skins in this game that I'm not going to get every single possible option. But, you know, keep commenting down below when I do miss one. Because, you know, I'm trying my best to put together every single option for every single gun. But, you know, I'm going to miss one here and there. But yeah, just keep in mind some of these skins are going to fall through the cracks. I'm trying my best to give you all the options, but I'm not going to get every single one. So continue to comment down below when I do miss one, and I think that helps out everyone who's watching the videos. I also wanted to quickly mention that this is probably going to be my longest video yet. There are a bunch of blue skins in this game, so you know it took me quite some time to put this list together, especially with the buff in CS2. There are a lot of skins that look a lot better and a lot bluer in the game. So let's hop into an inspect server and check out the different skins. So to save me some time in this video, I'm actually going to show everything in the best way possible. So if it comes in factory new, I'm going to show factory new and the pricing, just because there are a lot of skins in this video, and these videos take me quite a bit of time with research and, you know, going into the inspect servers, etc. I know that was a long intro, so let's get into it. Starting with the Glock, we have the blue Fisher, which is going to cost you around $1 in minimal wear. Then we got the Bunsen burner. This is also going to cost you around $1 in factory new. I tried to do it in order, but I almost forgot about the off-world. The off-world's only going to run you around 50 cents in factory new. Then we got the Twilight Galaxy, one of my favorite Glock skins in the game. This is going to cost you around $160 in factory new. Onto the USPS, we have the Guardian. This is going to cost you around $2 in minimal wear. Then we got the Royal Blue. This is going to cost you around $10 to $12 in minimal wear. And finally, we have the Blueprint. The Blueprint's going to cost you around $25 to $30 in factory new. Onto the Deagle, we have the Midnight Storm. This is going to cost you around $12 in field tested. Whoops, I missed the budget option again. This is the Blue Ply, going to run you around 50 cents in factory new. Then we got the Cobalt Disruption. This is going to cost you around $55 to $60 in factory new. Next up is the Tech 9. We have the Ice Cap, which will run you around 25 cents in factory new. Or you could go with the Avalanche, and this will cost you around $2.50 in factory new. Then we got the Titanium Bit. This will cost you around $6 in factory new. And then finally, the Decimator, which will cost you around $30 in factory new. Onto the P2000, we have the Oceanic, which will cost you around 25 cents in factory new. Or you could go with the Handgun, which will cost you around $5 to $6 in factory new. And then finally, we have the Ocean Foam. This will cost you around $125 in factory new. It's in the Bravo collection and trades up to the Fire Serpent. Onto the P250, we have the Valence, which will cost you around 50 to 75 cents in factory new. Or you can go with the Undertow, which will cost you around $50 in factory new. Onto the dualies, you have the dualies Shred, which will cost you around 40 cents in factory new. Then you got the Urban Shock, which will cost you around $2.50 in factory new. Another Cobalt skin, these are the Cobalt Quartzes. These will cost you around 50 cents in factory new. And then you got the Anodized Navies. These will cost you $2.50 in factory new. And finally, we have the duelists. These will cost you around $125 to $150 in factory new. They're in the Chop Shop collection and trade up to the Hot Rod. Onto the 5.7, we have the Forest Knight, which will cost you around 20 cents in factory new. Then we got the Foul Play, which will run you around $8 in factory new. Then we got the Berries and Cherries Max Blue Pattern 80. This will cost you around $150 to $200 in factory new. And we got another blue gem. This is the 5.7 Case Hardened Pattern 278, the #1 blue gem pattern. These are kind of tricky to price check, but I think they sell for around $2,000 in factory new. And now we're on to the CZ Auto. This is the Indigo, which will cost you around $4 in factory new. Then we got the Poison Dart. This will cost you around $7 in factory new. And then we got the Chalice, which will cost you around $325 in factory new. It's in the Cobblestone collection, which trades up to the Knight, and then the Knight trades up to the Dragon Lore, so that's why it's so pricey. And lastly, we are on the R8 Revolver. Only one really good option here, and that's the Phoenix marker. It's going to cost you around $2 in factory new. The SMGs, and starting with the Mac 10, we have the Indigo, which will cost you around $2 in minimal wear. Man, I'm doing this all out of order. This is the Lapis Gator, and this is going to run you around 50 cents in factory new. And you have the Oceanic, which will cost you around 15 cents in factory new. Then we have another blue gem, the Mac 10 Case Hardened Pattern 667, #1 pattern blue gem. This will cost you, I don't really know, honestly. I saw a listing for around $500. Maybe it's less than that. I would think maybe like $250. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll go with $500. Onto the MP9, we have the Goo, which will run you around $1.25 in factory new. I love the Goo. Then we have the Stained Glass, which will cost you around $75 in factory new. Then you have the Pandora's Box, which will cost you around $100 in factory new. Next up is the UMP45. We have the Exposure. This is going to cost you around $1.25 in factory new. Then we have the Indigo, which will cost you around $10 in factory new. I think these look sweet in CS2. They got a lot more blue. Finally, we have the Minotaur's Labyrinth. This will run you around $100 in factory new. I actually had this on the purple one as well. I can't decide if it's purple or blue. Onto the MP7, we have the Cirrus or Cyrus. Don't really know. This will cost you around 50 cents in factory new. Then we have the Anodized Navy, which will cost you around 75 cents in factory new. Next up is the Asterion, which will cost you around $4.50 in factory new. And lastly, the Ocean Foam, which will cost you around $4 in factory new. Onto the PP Bizon. This is the Water Sigil. This will cost you around $1.50 in factory new. Then we have the Blue Streak, which will cost you around $7 in factory new. Onto the P90, we have the Traction. This will cost you around $1 in factory new. We have the Off-World, which will cost you around $1 in factory new. Then we have the Module, which will cost around $2 in factory new. Then we have the Astral Jurgenmendingember. I don't know how to say it. It actually looks kind of green, but it also looks pretty blue too. So this is going to cost you around $250 in factory new. Last up for the SMGs, we have the MP5, the co-processor, which will cost you around 75 cents in factory new. I keep messing up the order. The liquidation's actually cheaper at 40 cents in factory new. And finally, we have the Agent, which will cost you around $2 in factory new. On to the rifles, starting off with the AK-47. What the hell's that guy doing over there? We have the AK-47 Ice Cold. This is one of my favorite skins in the game, honestly, and it's going to cost you around $15 in factory new. On to one of my favorite skins in the whole game. It's the frontside Misty. This is going to cost you, I don't know what these guys are doing. I might have to hide them, but that's going to cost you around $45 in factory new or $15 in minimal wear. A pretty big jump in price, so whatever your budget allows you to do, really good pickup. I had to go ahead and hide the dudes, but next up is an OG skin, the blue laminate. This is going to cost you around $10 in factory new. The more I go through this, the more I'm thinking maybe I should do a blue inventory, because this is the Vulcan, one of my favorite skins, again, in the game. So many good blue AK skins. This is going to cost you around $600 in factory new. And then for my highest of high rollers, this is the AK-47 case hardened blue gem pattern 661 with 4 Titan hollows on it in factory new. This is the most expensive gun skin ever sold. I think it sold for around 400,000 US dollars. It's also called the Scar pattern. Yeah, I think it's probably the most desirable, most collectible gun skin in the game. There's only 9 of them that exist, none in factory new. So yeah, if you have the money, this is a good skin for you. On to the M4A1S. This might be the gun that has the most options that I've given so far. The first one being the M4A1S Brightwater. This will run you around $20 in minimal wear. It's float cap, so it doesn't come in at factory new. Then we got the Guardian, which will cost you around $20 in factory new. Then we got the Decimator, which will cost you around $28 in factory new. And then the Nightmare, which will cost you around $30 in factory new. And we're picking it up a notch. This is the Hyper Beast, which will cost you around $120 in factory new. Then we got the Icarus Fell, which will cost you around $350 in factory new. This is a pattern-based skin, so it can look a lot different depending on which pattern you get. Next up is the Masterpiece, one of my favorite M4A1S skins. This will cost you around $500 in factory new. And finally, the Blue Phosphor, which will also cost you around $500 in factory new. I lied earlier. This is the most options I've ever given for a gun. First off, the Spider Lily will cost you around $11 in factory new. Then we got the X-Ray, which will cost you around $15 in factory new. The Dark Blossom, which will also cost you around $15 in factory new. The Desolate Space, which will cost you around $20 in factory new. The Dragon King, which will cost you around $25 in factory new. The Emperor, which will cost you around $110 in factory new. The Tornado, which is around $100 in factory new. It's another float cap skin, so it's hard to get it in factory new. The Temu Cow, which will cost you around $130 in factory new. And then finally, the Poseidon, which will cost you around $950 to $1,000 in factory new. Onto the Galil, we have the Cold Fusion, which will cost you around 25 cents in factory new. Then we got the Blue Titanium, which will cost you around $2.50 in factory new. Next up is the Rocket Pop, which will cost you around $5 in factory new. And the Stone Cold, which will cost you around $6 in factory new. And finally, we have the Aqua Terrace, which will cost you around $100 in factory new. Next up is the FAMAS or FAMAS, starting off with the Cyano Splatter. This will cost you around $1 in factory new. And we got the Night Boar, which will cost you around $5 in factory new. Then we got the Hexane, which will cost you around $7 in factory new. Then the After Image, which will cost you around $45 in factory new. And finally, we have the Water of Nephthys. I never think I can say that right. Nephthys. This will cost you around $125 in factory new. Next up is the SG, starting off with the Waves perforated. This will cost you around 10 to 12 cents in factory new. Then we got the Aloha, which will cost you around 10 to 15 cents in factory new. Then we got the anodized navy, which will cost you around 50 cents in factory new. I think this gun looks sweet. Next up is the wave spray. This will cost you around $7 in minimal wear. It's float capped at 0.06, so it's really hard to find in factory new, and it's really expensive. And finally, we have the tornado, which will cost you around $50 in factory new, maybe $55. Onto the AUG, we're going to start off with the Storm, which will cost you around 40 cents in factory new. Then we got the Ricochet, which will cost you around 75 cents in factory new. The Navy Murano, which will cost you around $6 in factory new. And the Momentum, which will cost you around $20 in factory new. And finally, we have the Anodized Navy, which will cost you around $30 in factory new. Onto the Op, we have the Atheris, which will cost you around $10 in factory new. The Sun and Leo, which will cost you around $20 in factory new. The Man O' War, which will cost you around $25 in minimal wear. It's another float cap skin at 0.1, so you can't get it in factory new. Then we got the Cortacera, which will cost you around $30 in factory new. And we got the Hyper Beast, which will cost you around $70 in factory new. We have the Silk Tiger, which will cost you around $200 in factory new. And on to the big boys. We got the Medusa, which will cost you around $4,750 to $5,000 in factory new. And finally, the best op skin in the game, the Gungnir, which will cost you around $10,000 in factory new. Onto the Scout, we have the Mainframe, which will cost you around 35 cents in factory new. And the Handbrake, which is around $1.50 in factory new. The Abyss, which is around $2.50 in factory new. And the Tropical Storm, which is around $30 in factory new or $45 in souvenir factory new. Onto the Auto Snipers, we got the Scar Blueprint, which will cost you around 25 to 30 cents in factory new. The Assault, which will also cost you around 25 to 30 cents in factory new. The Grotto, which is also around 25 to 30 cents in factory new. The Storm, which is around $7 in factory new. And finally, the Cardiac, which is around $9 in factory new. Onto the G3, we have the Azure Zebra, which will cost you around $1 in factory new. And we got the Demeter, which will cost you around $15 in factory new. And finally, we have the Kronos, which will cost you around $175 to $180 in factory new. Onto the Mag 7, we have the Sonar, which will cost you around 25 cents in factory new. The Navy Sheen, which will also cost you around 25 cents in factory new. The Cobalt Core, which will cost you around 40 cents in factory new. The Monster Call, which will cost you around $1 in factory new. The Hard Water, which will cost you around $3 in factory new. And the Seabird, which will cost you around $4 in factory new. And finally, the Storm, which will cost you around $6 in factory new. Onto the Nova, we have the Wind Blown, which will cost you around 20 cents in factory new. The Moon and Libra, which will cost you around $3 in factory new. And finally, the Tempest, which will cost you around $12 to $13 in factory new. Onto the XM, we have the Slipstream, which will cost you around 20 cents in factory new. The Blue Steel, which will cost you around 30 cents in factory new. The blue tire, which will cost you around 50 cents in factory new. Doesn't look very blue though. The very camo blue, which will cost you around $11 in factory new. And finally, the frost borer, which will cost you around $80 to $85 in factory new. And finally, on to the sawed off. Only one really good option here, and that's going to be the Serenity, which will cost you around $2 in factory new. On to the M249, we have the OSIPR. This is going to cost you around 20 cents in factory new. The Downtown, which will cost you around $1 in factory new. The Impact Drill, which will cost you around $2.50 in factory new. The Shipping Forecast, which will cost you around $13 in factory new. Then we got the Blizzard Marbleized, which will cost you around $120 to $130 in factory new. Another float cap skin, so it's pretty rare in factory new. Onto the Negev, we have the Man of War, which will cost you around 10 cents in minimal wear. Another float cap skin, so you're not going to get it in factory new. We got the Dazzle, which will cost you around 20 cents in minimal wear. Again, another float cap skin, so they don't exist in factory new. And finally, the Anodized Navy, which will cost you around $350 in factory new. A lot like the other videos I've done for inventory themes, there's several different finishes that come on a lot of different knives. I'm just going to show you one option per each finish. And yeah, if you like the finish and want to do it on a different knife, you can go ahead and do that. Starting off with the Brightwater finish on the gut knife is only going to cost you around $100 in factory new. Then we got the Paracord knife in blue steel. These got a huge buff in CS2, look a lot more blue. It's going to run you around $230, $240 in factory new. Then we got the Ursus knife Doppler Phase 4. People are calling this the fake sapphire just because of how much it does look like a sapphire in CS2. This is going to cost you around $450 in factory new. Onto the actual sapphire finishes. So to me, they look almost identical to the Phase 4s in CS2, and they've taken a pretty significant hit in price, but it's a huge jump in price from Phase 4. So this is the Flip Knife Sapphire. It's going to cost you around $2,700 in factory new. And for my highest of high rollers, we can't talk about blue skins without talking about blue gems. This is the Karambit Case Hardened Pattern 387. This is the most expensive skin in Counter-Strike. I think the owner, there's only one in existence in factory new, and I think the owner turned down an offer for $1.5 million. Pretty insane. It looks great, but I can't imagine spending that amount of money on a knife in a video game. Onto gloves, we have the Moto Gloves Polygon. These are going to cost you around $150 to $200 in field tested, depending on float. You can actually get a pretty decent float pair, like 0.16 for around $200, so not a bad deal, honestly, and I think they look sweet. And we got another pair of Moto gloves. These are the Cool Mints. These will cost you around $250 to $400 in field tested, depending on the float. Then we got the Cobalt Skulls. These will run you around $300 to $400 in field tested, depending on the float. Then we got the Sports Glove Amphibious. These will cost you around $550 to $800 in field tested, depending on the float. We got another blue gem. We have the Case Hardened Hydra Gloves in pattern 310. This is one of the tier 1 blue gem patterns. In a pair in field tested, recently sold for $2,500. And finally, we have the Sports Glove Superconductors. A field-tested pair will run you anywhere from around $1,400 to $2,200, depending on the float. These are some of my favorite gloves in the game. They look amazing. Ooh, that was a lot of skins. I actually think there are a lot of good budget options if you're trying to build out a blue inventory. There are a lot of different skins you can choose from for pretty much every gun, and you can make it as costly as you want. So I think if you have a smaller budget and you want to do a themed inventory, blue is a really good option. But like I said earlier, I'm sure I missed quite a few skins, so let me know what skins I missed down in the comments. But yeah, this one took me quite a long time, so I would really appreciate a like and a comment and perhaps a sub if you're interested in CS inventories in the future, because if you have one that you'd like me